What's the difference? I've always wondered that when it comes to the various different adaptations a manga can have. With one adaptation, you can end up meandering a little bit when it comes to the plot, inserting filler in order not to catch up too quickly with anything. You don't want to overtake the plot. You don't want to end up losing the main plot as you go along. Or with another adaptation, the anime might have already ended, and you have room to just cut out entirely major segments of something because it ends up a little unnecessary. You can trim the fat a little bit. But the question arrives, should you do that? Should you trim the fat, as it were? Is a 24 or 13 episode series for the best? Should you pause and just see if more is able to be adapted later down the line? Do you run the risk of people losing interest in the series because of that? It really does make you kind of question. But each mindset isn't bad and not at all. It's just that each mindset can sometimes have its own issues. One thing could be like, oh no, you should have kept that in. That was central to the plot, or it built atmosphere. It really builds upon itself. Or nah, you shouldn't leave that in. That just ends up destroying anything that might have been interesting going forward. And when it comes to Shaman King, who has two adaptations, I find that that really becomes an interesting situation because with the two adaptations, both situations ring true. Now, when it came to this series, where last we left off, we had the showdown between Pyron and Yo Asakura. The Tao family has kind of been on a tear in order to take down Asakura and his group, in order to make it so that he's not able to participate in the shaman fight in Tokyo. Something about the Asakura family has the Tao family kind of spooked for the most part. And it especially rings true in the original anime, as I'm not showing it here, but I skipped over two episodes of filler. The first being episode 8 of the original anime, Shaman Life, where after Yo fights against Pyron, Ryu, who was actually there to witness it, unlike in the other adaptations, he wants to become a shaman too, which is something that doesn't happen until a little bit later on. Meanwhile, we have the arrival of Tao Genie, who, once again, the Tao family is here to just wreck all kinds of shit and cause major problems for Yo and the rest of his group. But, Tao Genie is a filler character, so, and she ends up controlling a weird corpse ninja girl as well. So it's an interesting situation, but ultimately it's very obviously filler. They're making the Tao family out to almost be Team Rocket to Yo's Ash and the rest of his group. And then we had episode 9, The Boy from the North, where they end up taking in a young traveler named Horo, but Anna worries that he's yet another opponent trying to eliminate Yo before the shaman fight takes place. And ultimately, that wasn't actually the case. Horo had actually seen some of the corpses from the Tao family stalking Yo's place, thought they're suspicious people, they might have been the people who stole my stuff when I arrived in town, so he ended up stalking them and going after them as well. So it's an interesting situation where you've had Ryu and Horo, these two characters who don't really appear until much later, especially Horo. Horo is way off of where he should be appearing. But these two characters who, if you're looking at the opening, you know what their deal is. You know they become allies. You already know this, but That's what the anime has chosen to do, especially when it comes to their openings, because both adaptations' openings really spoil who's going to become an ally to Yo in the end and who the ultimate villain it actually is. But it's been enough meandering around the plot. Let's actually jump into what is Volume 3 of Shaman King, with the first chapter being Happy Place Trek, or Best Place Trekkers. Which, I love how the translation changes from adaptation to adaptation. They call it Happy Place Trek or Best Place Trek. Like, why change it like that? And then you have episode 10 of the old anime, which is Fate of 600 Years, and episode 4 of the 2021 anime, which is Besto Pleso. So, you know it's all about Ryu, Wooden Sword Ryu, Bokuto Ryu, our favorite little pompadour having dude, bro. Okay, so Ryu goes searching for his best place and all that good stuff. We have a moment from the manga that actually wasn't shown in the uh, newer anime until now, whereas where Ryu actually runs into Tauren, because Tauren ends up taking over this whole building that Ryu and his gang wanted to make their best place. And because of this, they end up being attacked by Tauren. So once again, Ryu ends up getting his pompadour cut off. The disrespect. How could you do this to our boy? But it's good to have that encounter taken out of the way, because Ryu just keeps running into these really dangerous figures. It just keeps happening to him again and again and again and again. So they're just looking for a place where they can belong. That's all they want. That's all they need. Their best place. Older anime, it's just we've kind of already gone over a lot of stuff. We've already had Ryu be incorporated into the lives of the Asakura household. And he's already trying to train to become a shaman and all that. Oh, he's down in the dumps feeling like, nah, it's impossible. I cannot become a shaman, blah, blah, blah. Muscle Punch really becomes the emotional center of this whole event coming up. And because of this, Muscle Punch has discovered a new Mr. Place for them. I really do love how diverse Ryu's group can actually be. Yeah, it also brings forward the question, it's just like, did society make Ryu and the rest of them bad people, or were they just always destined to be like this? A bunch of street punks. They don't really do anything too bad, but they just kind of meander around in life for the most part. Something that was also kind of glazed over in the earlier episodes of the older anime is that, in the manga, you would come to this point where Yo has decided to get a new wooden sword for Ryu because they ended up using it against Lee Pyron, kind of without his permission, and the manga and the newer anime, but whereas in the older anime, he'd actually willingly given his wooden sword up to them. And we then come to this point where Ryu and the rest of them have come to a new happy place, a new besto place, so the bowling alley on Funbari Hill, which is actually pretty cool. You know, this place that is pretty far away from all this other stuff going on. They could just kind of hang out here, have a good time. And I love the fact that Muscle Punch is actually kind of mechanically inclined. They can't actually be billed for being here. And divine retribution on Muscle Punch because he does not understand what a true happy place actually is. So, whereas Ryu continues to go on this tirade, the newer anime has decided to kind of cut out a lot of the explanation of what Ryu refers to as a best place. And we immediately go into this moment where Ryu finds Anna and immediately starts hitting on her. And it's just like, she will be my best place. Now, keep in mind, Anna is about 13 or so, whereas Ryu is 17. So it's a bit of an age difference, but he's still a minor despite the fact of how he looks. Like, Ryu looks like a full-on adult, but you know, in truth, he's actually fairly young. It's a weird thing about anime where they always kind of make uh, Ryu these kids who are in their late teens. They're like on the cusp of becoming adults, but they end up kind of making it seem like they're, you know, a little too old. Like they're already just like in their early to mid 20s, even late 20s. If you were to tell me Ryu is like in his late 20s, like 27, I would full on believe it. So ultimately, we have these two scenes where Ryu finally runs into Anna, which didn't need to happen in the older anime because he had already run into Anna. He had already been around Anna, and he already knew that Ryu and Anna, that Yo and Anna were together. So it was just like, yeah, he's not gonna hit on some other dude's girl. Like, he's not that kind of a guy. And ultimately, in the older anime, he's decided to just kind of chill out with his bros, hang out at the place. Yeah, it seems like a good time for the most part. So they choose to hang out there for at least a little while in the older anime. Whereas in the newer anime and in the manga, he's determined. He's determined to go after Anna and make her his. Newer anime is finally getting to the point where they're trying to decide on, hey, you know, we need to buy this sword for Ryu, pay him back for what he did. He really helped us out. Anna's moping around because Ryu was the person who originally was cooking for him, so she really wants that servant. Also, we're reaching a point where Manta is visiting Yo's home for the first time, something that has already happened in the older anime, and we come to find out where they're actually living, and it's this, you know, old-looking place that's only 1,000 yen, which is like $10 U.S., around $10 U.S. And he's also living here with Anna, of all people. And it's just like, what is going on here? Why are you two living together? And Ryu, who has followed Anna, is just like, what? No! This is immoral! A boy and a girl living together? And you, of all people, this kid who keeps showing up in my life, ruining everything. It's just like, well, he is my fiance, and it crushes Ryu. Just crushes Ryu. And it, you know, it's just like, oh, this would have been the perfect time to just give up the sword. And when Manta inquires into it a little bit more, it's just like, well, Amidamaru's also here. And it's not just Amidamaru. You know, for a house this cheap, like, come on. Come on. Of course there's other ghosts here. Like, you should be very, very scared. Of course this place is cheap. Nobody wants to live in a friggin' haunted house. I love that Manta is just like, yeah, I'm not sticking around here. It's too much. So, whereas Ryu has gone off to sulk about Yo and Anna being together, for some reason in the older anime, he's just kind of hiding out from Yo and Manta because he seems not to want to be confronted by them. He's running away from becoming a shaman and all that good stuff. Hiding out in the woman's bathroom. He feels he can't face them because his dream of being a shaman, he's given up on it. Ah, sadness, sadness. I love the ominous nature of, you're about to see the arrival of this creepy thing. It's just like all these lizards hanging around. I don't know why Manta would go out and try to capture this lizard. If there's one thing that the older anime really did fairly well, is give things a weird sense. Like, ooh, there's something ominous here. The Grudge. It's so that ends up kind of being the reason why the place was closed, and a lot of filler of them looking for Ryu. We gotta get out of here. There's something ominous in this place. And the moment where Ball Boy, who's always kind of been a little bit more in tune with curses and stuff like that, and he says it's just like, this place is a curse. Every business who has been here has always failed. It's ghost. A lot of stuff just kind of neanders with all of this. And they go running off because they still need to fix food. Food that Ryu should have been making for them. Still building up the atmosphere. And so we finally get to the point where, Ryu encounters Tokagero for the first time. This is the ancient place where Tokagero died long ago. And I love the situation in the manga where he's just draping his arm across Ryu. Whereas in the older anime, he just comes out of the mirror. It's just like, come on, give the presentation. I love Tokagero being the skeleton. The newer anime, he just holds his hand across Ryu's face. Which really goes to show it's just like, Ryu isn't really a willing participant in all of this. And Ryu thinks that Tokagero is some kind of bum at first because he's not attuned with spirits and all that good stuff. But he ends up being attacked one way or the other. Next chapter, the 600-year curse. So it's an interesting situation in both adaptations, where Ball Boy is trying to explain to them about who Tokagero actually is, this ancient bandit and all this crap, 600 years ago. They're just like, 600 years ago? Where have I heard this before? This hill used to be their hideout. They were eventually wiped out by Amidamaru. It's just like, okay, Amidamaru, interesting. And they hear Ryu yell. They go to check it out. I love this moment where there's this old man coming out of the urinal. It's just like, yeah, it's weird that you have all these ghosts and stuff. Yeah, and so Manta eventually goes to leave. All stuff in the manga. And then the question of why Manta is able to see spirits is kind of finally brought up. What is it? Like, what is it? Was it because you were around Yo or something like that? But Amidasara says, well, Yo thinks that only decent people are able to say go, so maybe that's why. So you have this great moment where he's walking off and thinking, okay, well, I wonder what makes someone decent. But then you have the moment where you see it in both the manga and the older anime. It's just like, okay, this is the moment where Tokagero has taken possession of Ryu. And he's demanding all this stuff from his subordinates and all that. And Manta spies it, see what's going on. Questioning where Amidamaru's sword is and all that. He wants to steal Hasarama. They never really want to become real criminals. You might beat some ass here and there, but that's going too far. And so you get to the moment where he attacks Muscle Punch. And it's kind of messed up just to straight up just be stabbing a friend of yours like that. Whereas in the older anime, just kind of knocks him down. And in the older anime, they're only just seeing the depths of how bad he's become. Just eating all this food that he can get his hands on. Of course, they're not going to have an underage guy drink. These guys are surprisingly good people deep down. Has to take care of the dishes because no one else is around. Anna ends up looking into Tokagero and all that. Manta ends up seeing Ryo and the rest of them going to steal the sword. We try to kind of talk him out of taking the sword and all that. Oh, he did end up stabbing him. It's hard to place things in the older anime just because they kind of meander around so much. Now we finally get to the point where Manta ends up being confronted by Wooden Sword Ryu, who is possessed by Tokagero. Older anime, jeez, so much stuff. And he knows that he can get to Adamidamaru through Manta. That moment where Yo is just pissing. She's in on Yo as he's going to the bathroom. Like, come on, let the man pee in peace. Wooden Sword Ryu arrives on the scene, flaming torches in hand with all his followers. They have Manta. One false move and we'll burn your house down. Now we're getting a pretty one-to-one situation going on. And his followers are just like, yeah, I don't know if we're okay with this, bro. They realize now it's getting pretty one-to-one. Then you finally see Tokagero show himself. And that's where the older anime ends. Oh god. It doesn't really, it just meanders to a certain point and just boop, we're done. See, this is it. This is it. This is where the downsides really come into play. Like, what constitutes something good? Was it great that we spent so much time looking for Ryu and all this stuff? Episode 11, Rainfall in the Spring, or whatever. Okay. Ultimately, it's just like, we don't care if he killed Manta. Well, Anna doesn't care if he kills Manta. Amidamaru has no idea who he is. Like, you're just some dude I struck down a little while back. Yeah, I killed a lot of evil people. Why would I remember them? Okay, so I've gotten to a moment where it's just like they're going in for the ultimate strike, but the sword is Harasame, so it's just like, no, he can't. He's got Harasame, so he doesn't want to break Harasame because of the significance that the sword has. Oh, jeez. For dramatic effect, he had to break through the scabbard, and I'm just like, don't break through the scabbard! Getting killed by your own sword, and be ironic. Tokagero is a pretty despicable guy in all versions. It just meanders around things in the original series. And the strike that he does, it's not as impressive in this version, I have to say. In the older version, it's just kind of like, you strike him. In the newer anime and the manga, it looks pretty intense. Ryu was ready to commit a murder. Of course, he never wanted it to be a fair fight. New chapter. Chapter 21, Spring Rain. It's just like you have three options. You can kill Ryu, get at him while he's killing the hostage, or destroy Harasame. And none of these options really appeal to anyone specifically, but, when it gets to the nitty gritty, it's just like, well, it's an object. Shouldn't it be the object that you take down? So we get a flashback to the days of the Warring States era. Or at least I assume that's what it is. I love in the manga, he full on cut these dudes. He went for the limbs. He went for the limbs. But we get a young Amidamaru way back in the day when, everything was awful and terrible. Now, he didn't cut off their limbs there, but, he chased anybody who would try to thieve from them. And his sword full on falls to pieces. And of course Momosuke is really mad because it's just like, I just put that thing together. Yeah, various battlefields. They didn't actually relate the bandit to being Tokagero. That adds a lot of depth. For some reason they cut out them being in bed talking about the sword. And the sacrifice Momosuke made, that it was actually his father's knife that he smelted down. And that's why he called it Harasame Spring Rain. It's a make or break decision. Cut through the sword that you cherish so much, or just leave it be. Drama! I like how there wasn't too much hesitation for Amidamaru in the other versions. Yeah, the older manga, The older anime skipped over a lot of stuff. The older anime skipped over a lot. They just completely cut out a lot of stuff. They immediately had everybody else jump in and help out Manta. Yeah. I like the fact that a lot of people who follow Ryu, it's simply because of the fact that Ryu was just nice to them, just offhandedly. The bond between Ryu and his friends is very beautiful. I like the fact that regardless, it still ends up being developed. It's hard to tell where everything kind of comes into play. It's just like they've skipped over a lot. Like, Amidamaru didn't really need to be taught this lesson. He already knew. There we go. And now he's destroyed the sword. Yeah, of course he's bitter that it's gone, but... It's like, yeah, Harasame was precious, but to save a friend, I would gladly do it. That's the whole meaning behind the sword. Sacrifice for the people you care about. And in chapter 22, are you? This starts raining in the freaking older anime. Get a little bit of... I hate that they kind of cut out a lot of what Yo had to say. There it is. Where his friends step in. Ball boy bringing in Muscle Punch, who was injured. And then Anna threatening to send him to hell. Ah, crap. Tokagero's determination to survive no matter what. They don't explain that he ate of his own mother's flesh in the original anime. I guess that was a little too gruesome. Tokagero, the lizard who would do anything to survive. Desperation. They skip through a lot of stuff in each adaptation. Okay, let me see if I can go through a little bit of this. Because in the manga, you have a moment where Tokagero tries to kill Ryu, but then you get the next chapter, 23, Tokagero Blues, where Ryu seems to start to overpower Tokagero, at least a little bit. But, because he's inside of Tokagero, the bodies are starting to kind of kill each other. Him being inside of Ryu is starting to kill him. Interesting. and they try their best to try to force him out. Tries to take Yo hostage. In comes Anna. Tries to send him to hell. He's stopped. It happens in the older anime too. They completely cut that out of the newer anime. And then Yo's desire to try to help Tokagero despite everything that happened. And the bond between Ryu and all of his friends. It's so beautiful! And Yo willingly giving up his body. And of course, Amidamaru steps in front, because it's just like, yeah, no, that does not sound like a good idea. I kind of like it better that he doesn't seal Amidamaru away, because, you know, it doesn't force him to have Amidamaru accept this. It's Amidamaru accepting that Yo has made this decision and rolling with it. So in that points to the newer anime. Points to the newer anime for just taking that decision and having Amidamaru be the one who has faith in Yo. And then they don't mention the fact that Anna could literally just peel, as she puts it, peel Tokagero right off of Ryu. She could easily do that and just send him to hell. But this is Anna having faith in Yo, at least to some degree. And I love this moment where he just comes bursting out of Ryu, and it's just a skeletal, visceral body just going into Yo. Boom! And he's taking over. And then in all versions, Anna kind of has a little bit of a breakdown. And even a lizard can cry. And then Amidamaru explains to him, it's just like something that Amidamaru kind of took for granted. It's just that he was able to give you something that you weren't able to have when you were dead. After all this time, a sense of inner peace. I love this moment of a heart-to-heart between Tokagero and Amidamaru. See, I like that we actually at least get glimpses of Tokagero's mother. The older anime didn't do that. And then all versions, Anna is pissed. He made me cry my own tears. Everyone checks in on Ryu. And then Tokagero thinking back on friendship and all that. It's a cute moment. And thus, with that, we end our episode. Although the anime actually has a moment, the newer anime has a moment where Tao Ren is getting ready for the next Shaman fight. Because they don't want you to forget Ren. It's just like, no, Ren is important. You have to remember Ren. Tao Ren is very important. Do not forget about him. Okay. Not terrible. They adapted most of Volume 3 into all of this. But the issue of Hirasame being cut down into... It's been cut in twain! Harusame. So that needs to be repaired. So that's what's coming up next for both of these series. And that's about what it boils down to. You know, the return of Mosuke and all that. And it'll be the beginning of the shaman fight coming up soon. That's the thing. Like, oh, next episode is the prelude. Like, well, the start of everything. The true battle to become Shaman King. So, honestly, not the most interestingly diverse series of episodes. Let's be real. I mean, aside from them needing to change things up because of what they did in regards to Wooden Sword Ryu, that he was already friends with Yo and his family and all that, there was a lot that they had to change for the original series. But, you know, you got several episodes of filler kind of in there. So, you know, you got episode 10 and episode 11 in the original anime. You know, episode 4 of the newer anime. And in terms of the manga, you got chapter 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Like, that is a lot of manga to be covering. But not quite as much as you would think. They almost covered the entirety of volume 23, but aside from the last two chapters, not so much. And from the looks of things, they'll be only adapting about 3 chapters going forward. For episode 5, no, honestly, no. Because episode 5 of the newer anime, it looks like it's going to adapt last 2 chapters and almost a little over half of volume 4. Whereas with the older anime, it'll be taking off of, that adapts into episodes 12, 13, no, just 12 and 13 of the original anime. So, yeah, it's a very breezy series of episodes, but that seems to just be the way things kind of go. What is about so far consistently about a volume of the manga can be adapted into a couple of episodes of the OG anime because of the way they pace things out. And they include a lot. They make sure to include a lot. So if they're fully adapting things, it's about 2 episodes. If they're milking things, 3 episodes of the OG anime. But with the newer anime, you can adapt a whole volume into 1 episode. That's what they've been doing so far. And I wonder, once they start to get closer to where the OG anime ended, will they just adapt things a little bit differently? But the showdown with Tokagero, very sympathetic, sad, sweet fight. You know, it wasn't terrible, it wasn't harsh, it was just okay. And we get to see more of Ryu properly this time. Going forward, he's now fully allied to Yo and all of his friends. But tell me your thoughts on this adaptation in the comments section below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were you a little bit iffy on a few parts? The scattered nature of things always kind of throws me off a little bit, because it's just like, is this necessary? Was it okay to just have Ryu be a part of everything early on? Because you could have cut some corners in doing that, in making Ryu an ally from earlier on, but no, they really didn't do that. They used it as more reason to Neander. It's just like, oh, he wanted to be a shaman, so he went in for training, but ultimately he gave up on it only for him to become a shaman because of the integration of Tokagero. And it really does start to kind of build upon the question of what makes someone a shaman. What is it? What is the catalyst for someone being able to see ghosts and all that good stuff? So, lots of questions raised, and hopefully some answers going forward. But get ready for more Ryu and a newer character, Silva, who is a fun character altogether. Very underrated, if I had to say so myself. But tell me your thoughts on this in the comment section below. Which version is your favorite version? Which version do you think is the best adaptation of Shaman King? And what parts do you feel were the best in all three versions? For me, it's definitely the just sympathetic nature that they build upon Tokagero. It's just like, yes, he's a scumbag, he's a bad person, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that he didn't deserve salvation for his soul in the end. At least to some degree. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.